Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. HTM here, and in this video we're diving into more PvP in the Elder Scrolls Online, showing you some of my favorite easy builds on some of the easiest classes in the game that you can pick up right now to start learning the basics and actually start winning and having fun. These classes were made for PvP with strong options for damage, healing, survivability, and strong ultimates, making them perfect for newer ESO players, or even if you've played before but you want to focus more on PvP content. Keep in mind too that right now is the best time to start PvPing in the Elder Scrolls Online thanks to the Midyear Mayhem event, where you can earn tons of alliance points, experience, and bonus rewards. So if you're ready to get started in PvP, then you are in the right place. Let's jump right into the builds. So our first build is going to be the Stamina Templar, one of my all-time favorites as far as PvP builds go in the Elder Scrolls Online. If you saw my previous video, which was the beginner PvP guide, you probably saw a version of this build over there. For this video, I'm just going to show you the main skills that you want to focus on, some of the passives that you want to get, especially early on. Then I'll give you a couple of solid choices for easy gear sets that you can pick up to make a very strong build without having to commit too much time so you can get started right away. Starting off with the skills, let's talk about damage first. Biting Jabs. This is your primary DPS ability, does great upfront damage, has great passives as well. So good. Now, as far as other damaging abilities, Power of the Light, also a very strong choice. This is a timed ability, so what you can do is you can time this burst of damage with your jabs with other abilities to do as much damage as possible. It also has a nice debuff, the Minor Breach debuff. Now, I also recommend comboing those abilities with some of your two-handed abilities like Executioner for an execute, Critical Rush for a nice gap closer. You could even run a back bar bow with something like Poison Injection for even more damage over time. And what makes this build really stand out to me as one of the best beginner builds for PvP is a very simple skill called Repentance. And what this does is it gives you 3,000 health and stamina back for each corpse on the ground, and it is also free to cast. This is by far one of the best sustain abilities in the game for stamina builds or any build actually for PvP, because as long as enemies or even teammates are dying, and they will be, you get free sustain. So if used correctly, this basically makes the build unstoppable. Now beyond that, make sure to pick up the Vigor skill right away for some healing. Resolving Vigor is the morph I would recommend. And then you will also want Rally eventually from the two-handed skill line. Until you get Rally, keep in mind you can also use Magicka-based healing pretty effectively, especially if you're under level 50. So something like Honor the Dead. This scales with Magicka, so it won't be a huge amount of healing, but it is your off resource. So that means if you're completely out of stamina, you can still heal with this if you have Magicka left over, and you probably will. Also make sure to throw on a crowd control ability. Something like Binding Javelin is quite strong. You can use this in melee range or from a distance. For an offensive ultimate, I would recommend Empowering Sweep. This only costs 75 ultimate to cast, very cheap to get this. And then for a defensive ultimate, which is great for solo and group play, Remembrance. This gives a very solid heal plus major protection for 10 seconds. As far as gear sets, again, my point of this video is just to give you sets that are easy to obtain. Either you can farm them yourself or maybe quickly pick some up this weekend on a guild trader. My favorite set for the Stamina Templar is going to be Spriggan's Thorns. Super easy set to get, and what this does is it gives you a nice chunk of physical penetration as well as stamina. Every stat you need basically to apply a lot of pressure, a lot of damage to your target. If you don't have this set yet, or maybe you are lower level, don't worry. You can actually go to the zone of Bankarai, follow around some groups that are farming dolmens and world bosses, and you can pick up a set of Spriggans really quickly. Now for this build, as I was leveling it up, I also picked up a set of Briarheart. This is another great offensive stamina set, lots of weapon damage, some weapon critical. Now you might be worried about the proc. Remember, procs are enabled again for all PvP instances. And if you use a skill on this build like Crit Rush, which we are using on the front bar 2H, you are 100% guaranteed to get the Briarheart to proc as soon as you use that gap closer, because it's always a critical strike. So those are two easy to pick up sets that I would recommend. Again, we're focused more on beginners, things you can pick up quickly on this video. If you want some more advanced setups, check the links down below. I will have some written guides with more options for you. Now let's quickly talk about passive abilities. What do you want to pick up first? Well, one of the best passives you can get as a Templar is Spear Wall. This gives you minor protection, which reduces your damage taken by 5%. And you're going to proc this anytime you do one of these Adric Spear abilities. So for example, Biting Jabs, your main source of offensive burst damage is also giving you defense at the same time. That's another really strong part of the Templar build. Also, make sure to get Burning Light. This gives you some additional burst damage when doing your jabs, as well as Balanced Warrior for the extra weapon damage, and even Piercing Spear for the extra critical damage. In Dawn's Wrath, I would start right away with getting Prism. This gives you ultimate back anytime you use one of these abilities, so Power of the Light will give you ultimate. And then also Restoring Spirit. Whenever you can get this, this reduces the cost of all of your abilities, including your ultimate by 5%. So that's a very good one. Finally, for Restoring Light, all of these are pretty good. I would actually go for Light Weaver as soon as possible. That's because when you are using your Restoring Light ultimate, the Remembrance skill, you actually get passive armor. Check this out. Light Weaver gives you 33,000 physical and spell resistance. This basically makes you unkillable while you are channeling that ultimate. If you get the ultimate but you don't have this passive, then it's actually not as good. You want to make sure you combine this passive with this ultimate together to really have some good defense. Of course, yes, you'll want your main weapon skill passive, so two-handed, bow, whatever you're using here. And then as soon as possible, make sure to pick up your medium armor passives, as many as you can get. Now, the only one I would probably skip is Improved Sneak, but right away I would put points into Dexterity for the weapon critical, and especially Windwalker for the extra stamina recovery and stamina cost reduction. This is going to be very important if you're under level 50 or you're in a no CP campaign or something like Battlegrounds. You need the extra recovery and the extra cost reduction. This is huge. Easy build number 2 is going to be the Magicka Sorcerer with great survivability through passive healing, burst healing, shields, and mobility. This class can live longer than most, plus it also has great burst damage potential. If you want a powerful ranged caster build for PvP, then Magicka Sorcerer is definitely the way to go. Alright, let's jump into the skills that you need on the Magicka Sorcerer build. As far as damage goes, main spammable DPS skill, Destruction Staff, Force Pulse is going to be what you want. We will also be combining this with the Dark Magic skill, Crystal Fragments. Casting Magicka abilities on our front bar is going to enable the instant proc Crystal Frag, which hits for big damage and also costs less Magicka. We'll also want Endless Fury from the Storm Calling skill line. This is our Magicka Execute. Super strong ability. Just remember that you can pre-cast this before an enemy actually gets low health, and then push that enemy down into execute range with a combination of damaging abilities, your frags, your force pulse, and then basically watch that enemy explode with the Endless Fury. For healing, the easiest option by far is the Twilight Matriarch from the Daedric Summoning skill line. This is an insane burst heal, which can also support your teammates at the same time. You can also combine this with Critical Surge from Storm Calling, that's right here, for some nice passive healing. And then I would also recommend for healing and sustain, Dark Conversion. This turns your stamina into Magicka and health. For survival, there's many great survival tools on the Magsorc. Number 1, Hardened Ward is your damage shield. Make sure you pop this. And then for mobility and armor, we'll want to make sure we maintain Boundless Storm. And then for some extra mobility, Streak. Streak will be especially important for creating distance between you and, let's say, stamina builds that try to close the gap against you. This gives you a nice AoE stun in front of you and then helps you create some distance. Finally, for ultimates, I would recommend for offensive, probably the Storm Atronach ultimate. This is just a great all-around ultimate. For a defensive ultimate, you can run Negate, or you could actually run something like the Restoration Staff ultimate, if you want more healing, let's say on a Restoration Staff back bar. For sets, I would first recommend something that increases your max Magicka, because sorcerers can stack this quite easily. Some great options for this include overland sets like Necropotence or Crafty Alfiq. Next, you'll want something to increase your overall survivability since you are a light armor build. Something like Impregnable Armor, which buffs all of your resources, as well as provides critical resistance, is a nice option to help you live longer. As I said, these are just basic beginner sets if you want to get started with the Magicka Sorcerer quickly. For more advanced options, definitely check out the written guide. Link is in the description. Also, if possible, remember to focus on traits that benefit PvP, specifically such as Impen or Well Fitted. Let's talk about passives next on the Magicka Sorcerer. Under Dark Magic, make sure to pick up Unholy Knowledge right away. This gives you good cost reduction. Blood Magic can also give you a decent heal off your Crystal Frag. Under Daedric Summoning, you will want Power Stone as soon as possible. This reduces the cost of your ultimate. Daedric Protection for the extra health and stamina recovery. And an Expert Summoner, 8% max health while you have a pet active, is a really great option for PvP. Finally, in Storm Calling, you get some great bonuses here. Get all of these, you guys. Capacitor for the mag recovery, Energize for the shock damage, Amplitude for the bonus damage done, and Expert Mage for bonus spell damage. Of course, you will want your Destruction Staff passives, Restoration Staff passives. In terms of armor, you'll want as many pieces of light armor as possible due to your light armor passives, which are quite strong. For example, Concentration. This gives you spell penetration, which lets your abilities hit as hard as possible. Prodigy gives you extra spell critical. And then make sure you pick up Grace right away. This is actually very important for PvP because it reduces the effectiveness of snares against you and also reduces the cost of sprint. This means you won't run out of stamina quite as often when you have this passive maxed out. Easy build number 3 is going to be the Stamina Warden. Stam Wardens are incredibly powerful both in solo and group PvP situations. They have amazing buffs and passives while also having strong defense, healing, and outstanding burst damage potential. So if you want a fun brawler playstyle that can take as much damage as it dishes out, then Stamina Warden will be your go-to build. For skills, let's talk about your damage abilities first. Now, your bread and butter DPS is going to be Subterranean Assault from the Animal Companion skill line. This skill is amazing. Tons of burst damage potential. It also does AoE damage, but it does require that you have some aim. However, I would say the width and the range of this skill is actually pretty big, so you can be fairly effective on it with a little bit of practice. Now, since this ability does have about a 3-second timer, you'll be able to combo this with some weapon abilities for even more damaging combos. My favorite is going to be the two-handed skill line, combining this with the Dizzying Swing ability. The fact that this skill either sets the enemy off balance or snares them helps to break down the enemy even further, making them more likely to get hit by that sub-assault. Remember that you can weave in a medium basic attack if your enemy is off balance in order to stun them. Now, you'll definitely want to combo this again with skills like Reverse Slice, which is an AoE execute. You could even throw on for more mobility and even more AoE damage, the Stampede skill. Now, as far as healing, I do recommend picking up Vigor as soon as possible. Resolving Vigor will be the best morph for you there. Wardens have a pretty good class heal as well under Green Balance called Soothing Spores. You can pick this up very early. It's the first ability in the skill line. Throw that on your bar and have some good healing right away. Eventually, you may want to also consider putting on Arctic Blast. This is a quick burst heal with a heal over time aspect, and it does do AoE frost damage and a stun as well. So this can be very handy, especially against groups. Now, as far as your buffs, Ice Fortress is a fantastic armor skill. You get the major resolve, plus you get minor protection. Make sure you keep this up as much as possible, and then for some sustain, you can combine that with Bullnetch. Bullnetch gives you stamina back, plus major brutality. Don't forget, too, you can pick up Bird of Prey for some extra movement speed and the minor berserk buff, letting you do even more burst damage. For ultimates, I would recommend Permafrost as your main go-to ultimate here. Pretty decent AoE damage, but a massive, massive snare, plus major protection for you and your group. This thing is amazing as a solo build, even more useful for coordinated groups. Then if you want something for healing on your back bar, I would recommend the Green Balance Ultimate Healing Thicket here. You'll get some good clutch healing for you and your group. It's fairly cheap to cast as well. Now, if you're running something a little bit more defensive like a Sword and Shield, you could also run the Sword and Board Ultimate on your back bar as well. Now, the easy starter sets I would recommend for Stamina Warden include sets that buff your overall stats and recoveries. A great example of this that you can pick up pretty easily in Western Skyrim, or you can just buy it on Guild Traders, is the Eternal Vigor set. And yes, Stamina Wardens can play very well using heavy armor as a base, or you can choose to rearrange your sets and go full medium armor if you want. That'll obviously give you more damage. Now, another fun set to start with on the Stamina Warden is the Venomous Smite set. Since this does AoE damage, it will pair pretty nicely with our main damaging ability, Subterranean Assault, which is also AoE. Now, these are just basic sets to get you started. Again, if you want to see more advanced setups, check out the link below for the written guide. Now let's talk about passives. What are the most important passives as you're starting your Stamina Warden? These Animal Companions passives are quite good. Bond with Nature gives you a little mini heal. You can actually proc this very consistently with a free skill, Bullnetch, just to kind of top off your health, or if you have no resources, you can get free heals from this passive. Savage Beast does give you ultimate back, which is very useful. Get those permafrost back quicker. And then Flourish is amazing. 12% Magicka and stamina recovery, as long as you have an Animal Companion slotted on both your front and back bar. And then finally, Advanced Species giving you more damage done. All of these passives are great. Under Green Balance, the main one you'll want right away, Maturation gives you 10% bonus max health. This is really good for you and your group. Accelerated Growth also gives you Major Mending if you heal yourself or an ally under 40% health with a Green Balance ability. So if you're running that Soothing Spores heal, you can get Major Mending, which is quite nice. And then under Winter's Embrace, Glacial Presence is great for debuffing your enemies, getting that chilled status effect on them as much as possible. And I would recommend Icy Aura. This gives you a reduction of snares. 15% there is nice. As far as weapon passives, all of these will be important, whether you're running two-handed, one-handed shield, dual wield. Make sure you max out those passives as much as possible. Armor passives, we've talked about these in the Stamina Templar build. Medium armor is going to be best for cost reduction. Things like Windwalker really reduce the cost of your abilities and help you max out your stamina recovery. Whereas if you decide to go with heavy armor on a Stamina Warden, which you totally can do, you'll be getting more armor, you'll be getting more health and health recovery, more sustain. It's really up to you whether you want the more tanky, heavy armor playstyle or you want the more bursty, medium armor playstyle. And with that said, we'll go ahead and wrap up this video on some of my favorite easy PvP builds for the Elder Scrolls Online. Hope you enjoyed the video today and you found it informative. And of course, if you did, don't forget to crush that like button. It really helps out the channel. But now I want to know, what are some of your favorite easy PvP builds? Let us know down in the comment section below. Now, if you have any questions about the 3 builds that I shared in today's video, make sure to click the link for the written guide. That will be down in the description. I'm even working on adding a PvP section of builds to the website, so keep an eye out for that link as well. Again, thanks to all of you for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.